his skin. Their golden eyes glowed in the darkness, fixed on their prey. Any moment now, their hunger would consume him. Yet Daniel did not tremble. He did not plead. He knelt, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. The world had betrayed him, but heaven never would. We are going to uncover the biblical story of Daniel, a man of great faith and courage, a man who refuses to worship any other gods except the true God of Israelite. So let's begin. Babylon was a city of gold and conquest, where power was the language of survival. Its mighty walls stretched high into the heavens, a testament to King Darius's reign. But within those walls, not all battles were fought with swords. Some were waged in the shadows of the palace, where envy and deceit whispered through the corridors. Among the rulers and administrators of Babylon, none was as revered as Daniel. Though a foreigner, he had risen through the ranks, his wisdom surpassing that of all the king's advisers. His every decision was just, his every action blameless. But it was his unwavering faith in the God of Israel that set him apart and made him a target. The other officials seethed with jealousy. They watched as Daniel walked with quiet confidence, as the king entrusted him with more power. They had searched for a weakness in him, a single fault to exploit, but found none. Then one of them, a man named Marcellus, leaned in close to the others, his lips curling into a knowing smile. "We cannot find fault in him," he admitted, "but we can find fault in his faith." The men exchanged glances. They knew well that Daniel prayed daily to his God, 3 times a day, without fail, facing toward Jerusalem. He did not bow to the idols of Babylon, and therein lay their trap. That very evening, they approached the king with false smiles and honeyed words. "O great King Darius, live forever," Marcellus began. The king, seated on his throne of gold and ivory, lifted a hand. "Speak. We have devised a decree, one that will unite all the peoples under your reign." Another official chimed in. "For 30 days, no man shall pray to any god or man, except you, O king. If any are found breaking this decree, let them be cast into the den of lions." King Darius stroked his beard, considering their words. To be worshipped as a god, even for a time, was an honor reserved for the greatest of kings. The flattery pleased him, and in his pride he did not see the true purpose behind the decree. With a swift motion, he took the royal seal and pressed it onto the decree. "So let it be written," he declared. The officials bowed low, hiding their victorious smiles. The trap had been set. Daniel knew of the decree before the sun had fully risen. The whispers in the palace carried far, and his enemies did not bother hiding their triumph. Yet when he heard the law, he did not hesitate. He climbed the steps to his chamber, the same way he had every morning. The windows, open to the east, let in the golden light of dawn. Below, the city of Babylon was alive with merchants and workers. Oblivious to the storm brewing in the courts, Daniel knelt by the window and lifted his face toward heaven. "Blessed be the Lord God of Israel," he whispered. "You who delivered our fathers from Egypt, you who closed the Red Sea upon Pharaoh's army, my life is in your hands." And he prayed. The officials had expected fear. They had expected Daniel to waver, to hide. But as they stood in the streets below, looking up at the open window, they saw not a man cowering in secret, but a man standing firm before his God. "He does not even try to hide it," one of them spat. "No," Marcellus said with a smirk, "he is making it easier for us." With haste, they ran back to the palace, eager to deliver the news. When King Darius heard their words, his heart sank. "Daniel," he whispered. He gripped the edges of his throne. Surely not Daniel. He knew at once that he had been deceived. The officials had no desire to honor him. They had only sought to destroy his most trusted servant. "Let him be brought before me," the king ordered, though his voice carried no authority, only sorrow. Within the hour, Daniel was escorted into the throne room. He did not struggle. He did not plead for mercy. He stood with the dignity of a man whose faith was stronger than fear. The king rose from his throne, stepping down until he stood before Daniel. His voice was low, heavy with regret. "You have served me faithfully, Daniel. I was blind to their schemes." Daniel smiled, but it was not a smile of defiance. It was one of peace. "My king, you are not my judge, nor are they. My life belongs to the Lord." Darius closed his eyes for a long moment. He turned to his guards, his jaw tight. With fury, "Take him." The guards hesitated. No one wanted to be the one to lead Daniel to his death, but the decree was law. As they took hold of him, leading him toward the pit of lions, the king's voice echoed through the hall, breaking with desperation. "May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you." Daniel did not look back. The den was deeper than he had imagined. The descent was slow, the rope lowering him inch by inch until his feet met the cold, hard ground. The stench of beasts and old bones clung to the air, thick and suffocating. Then the rope was drawn up, and the world above him vanished behind a heavy stone. Darkness swallowed him whole. He could hear them before he could see them. The low growls, the shifting of bodies against the stone floor. The lions had been starved for this very moment. Their breaths were ragged, their hunger undeniable. Daniel's heart beat steady. He knelt as he had always knelt. He closed his eyes as he had always done, and he prayed. He did not see the first lion step forward, nor the second. He did not hear the sharp intake of breath from the beasts as they bared their teeth, but in that moment something unseen filled the den. The lions stopped. A presence, calm, powerful, pressed through the darkness, unseen but undeniable. And, in the silence, the great beasts of Babylon bowed. A hush fell over the den. The lions, moments ago poised to attack, now sat motionless. Their golden eyes flickered in the dim light, fixed on something unseen by human eyes. Daniel, still on his knees, felt it. A presence, holy, unshakable, had filled the pit. Slowly, he lifted his gaze. There, standing in the midst of the great beasts, was a figure clothed in radiant light. The angel's face shone with a brilliance beyond earthly understanding, his robes gleaming like the sun at its peak. His hands were outstretched, and though he spoke no words, his authority was undeniable. The lions lowered their heads. The great beasts of Babylon, known for their ferocity, now rested like tame lambs. Daniel bowed his head. "O Lord," he whispered, "you are the God who shut the mouths of lions, who delivers those who trust in you." The angel did not speak, but Daniel felt his reassurance, as if a mighty hand had steadied his spirit. Hours passed, though time in the darkness had no measure. The lions did not approach him, nor did they grow restless. Some lay down, their powerful bodies curled as if in slumber. Others merely watched, their hunger subdued by a power beyond their understanding. The night stretched on, yet Daniel did not fear, for the presence of the Lord was with him. In the palace, King Darius paced his chamber, his hands clenched in frustration. The feast that had been prepared for him lay untouched, the golden goblets of wine ignored. Music and revelry echoed through the halls, but none of it reached his ears. He could not rest. The image of Daniel, his most trusted servant, his friend, being lowered into that pit, tormented him. He had spent the entire day seeking a way to undo his decree, but the laws of the Medes and Persians could not be changed. The officials had trapped him as surely as they had trapped Daniel. He had been a fool. Darius sank onto his throne, pressing his hands to his face. "O God of Daniel," he whispered, though he knew little of this God, "let not the innocent perish." He refused all entertainment, all distractions. He did not sleep, nor did he allow music in his chamber. The weight of his mistake pressed heavily upon him. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, he could wait no longer. He rose swiftly, his robes flowing behind him as he strode from the palace. His royal guards scrambled to follow, but he did not slow. He would see for himself. The sun had barely risen when King Darius reached the lion's den. His breath was heavy, his heart pounding. The great stone that sealed the den remained in place. With urgency, he commanded his servants, "Remove it at once." They obeyed without hesitation, rolling the heavy stone away. Dust rose in the air as the first sliver of light poured into the darkness below. Darius stepped forward, his voice shaking with both hope and dread. "Daniel, servant of the living." "God!" he called, his voice echoing down into the pit. "Has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" For a moment, silence. The officials who had gathered held their breath, eager to hear no response, to confirm their success in destroying Daniel. Then from below, a voice rose. "O King, live forever!" Gasps filled the air. Darius staggered forward, hardly believing his ears. "My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths," Daniel's voice continued, strong and clear. "They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also before you, O King, I have done no wrong." Tears pricked the king's eyes. Relief flooded through him, washing away the torment of the night. "Bring him up at once," he commanded. Ropes were lowered, and as the crowd watched in astonishment, Daniel was lifted out of the den. His clothes were untouched, his face calm. Not a single wound marred his body. The lions, still resting in the shadows below, did not stir. The people murmured among themselves, some in awe, others in fear. Truly the God of Daniel was no ordinary God. King Darius turned to the officials who had plotted against Daniel. Their faces had gone pale, their hands trembling. The truth was undeniable now. Their deceit, their jealousy, their schemes. They had not only sought to destroy Daniel, but had also attempted to manipulate the king himself. Darius's gaze hardened. "Seize them," he commanded. The guards did not hesitate. The very men who had conspired against Daniel were now dragged forward, their protests ignored. "You sought to destroy an innocent man," the king declared, "and now the judgment you sought for him shall be yours." The officials cried out, pleading for mercy, but the king's decree was firm. They were cast into the den along with their families. The moment their feet touched the ground, the lions, silent and restrained before, rose. A deafening roar filled the air. Before the crowd could even turn away, the beasts leaped upon their new prey, their hunger finally unleashed. Darius watched, his expression grim. Justice had been served, but his heart was not filled with vengeance, it was filled with wonder. The God of Daniel had done what no man could. That very day, King Darius called forth his scribes. With urgency, he dictated a decree that would be carried throughout the vast empire of the Medes and Persians. "To all peoples, nations, and languages who dwell in all the earth," he declared, "peace be multiplied to you." He took a breath, then spoke the words that would forever mark history. "I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and steadfast forever. His kingdom is one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." The decree was sealed, carried by swift messengers to the farthest corners of the kingdom. Daniel, the man who had been sentenced to death, now stood as a living testimony of God's power, and though his enemies had sought his downfall, he was now more honored than ever before. As he walked from the palace that day, Daniel lifted his eyes to heaven. His God had been faithful. and Daniel knew. He always would be. With the king's decree spread throughout the vast empire, Daniel's name became known far and wide. He was no longer just an official in the Persian court. He was a living testimony of God's power, a man untouched by death, saved from the jaws of lions. King Darius, now filled with reverence for the God of Daniel, promoted him to an even higher position in the kingdom. Though Daniel was already a chief governor, the king entrusted him with even greater authority, knowing he was a man of integrity. Daniel, however, did not allow his heart to be swayed by power or recognition. He remained the same humble servant of God, continuing his prayers 3 times a day, seeking wisdom and ruling with justice and righteousness. And just as he had prospered under King Nebuchadnezzar and King Belshazzar before, so he prospered under Darius and even into the reign of the next ruler, Cyrus the Persian. His life was marked by unwavering faith, and though he had faced countless trials, he remained steadfast to the end. As Daniel grew older, he continued to see the hand of God at work in the affairs of men. He witnessed the fall of empires and the rise of new kings, but he knew that human kingdoms were fleeting. Only the kingdom of God was eternal. In the later years of his life, he received visions and revelations from God, foretelling events yet to come. These visions spoke of future kingdoms, of rulers who would rise and fall, and of a great and final kingdom that would be established by the Almighty himself. Daniel wrote these visions down, recording them for future generations. He knew that the God who had shut the mouths of lions was the same God who controlled the destiny of nations. And so, with a heart full of wisdom and faith, Daniel continued to serve, to pray, and to trust in the promises of God. Until, at last, his days on earth came to an end, but his story did not end in the grave. For Daniel's name remained in the sacred scriptures, a testimony for all generations that the God of heaven is faithful to those who trust in him. The story of Daniel in the lion's den is more than just a historical account. It is a powerful lesson for all believers. The story of Daniel is a reminder that no matter what challenges we face, whether persecution, trials, or the opposition of the world, if we remain faithful to God, He will deliver us.